Well, this conversation is about the influence of AI and technology, future of design. Well, let me have a good conversation. And before the conversation, I wanted to introduce our panelist for a discussion. Well, let me invite Kavitha Kalyan, and she is Executive Design Director for TCS. Let's welcome Ms. Kavitha Kalyan. And I also wanted to invite another panelist who is, of course, the Managing Director of the Designs Agency, Branding and Designing, Landor and Fitch. Let's welcome Lulu Raghavan. Ma'am, it's an honor to have you both on panel. Let me not delay ahead and let me invite our first panelist, Mrs. Kavitha Kalyan, Executive Design Director for TCS. Ma'am, it's an honor. And Himanshu, you can take the panel now.
Hi Kavitha, hi Lou. Yes, we are finally doing it now. It's quite some time we haven't been talking about it. And I was really brainstorming on what could be the topic on which I can have you both speaking on, sharing your thoughts on, and somehow thought that this new trendy conversations around Dolly, AI, technological advancement affecting this creative industry. And there are a lot of people who have been talking about it. But I just wanted to see what's the perspective of leaders of some giant organization and how are they looking at it, how are they forming their perception, and what's their angle to it. So that's why I thought that why not have Lulu and Kavitha on for this topic. So really honored. I think I'll quickly start with one very open and simple question. Like I'll start with you, Kavita. Maybe how do you think is this advancement in technology in the last 10 years with the SaaS boom, with creative tools becoming better, with other tools coming up and increasing the efficiency of creativity, and not just that, maybe analytics tool which are giving a lot of data inputs so that all these creatives that we are making are pretty much like accurate according to the audience. So how are these advancements like affecting the creative industry?
See, when we look at it from the digital perspective, right? One part of creativity is that you're looking at the aesthetics of it. Okay, but that's not the only thing. Okay, aesthetics is one drop in the larger ocean of creativity. What we are building in the digital space is actually an experience. Okay, and when we are looking at experience, it doesn't matter from where the user is coming and what the user is attempting to do. Essentially, what we are trying to do is we are trying to stitch in creative concepts in the digital space which can move along with the industry concepts which are across retail, banking, travel, insurance, you name it, it's all there. Okay, but the big thing that really works is personalization, plenty of omni-channel. If you want to be relevant, you need to have all of this in your kitty. So you need to be, you need to have personalized experiences. It needs to be in an omni-channel environment. And the data that is coming in, okay, data can be humongous. Okay. And the data that has to come in has to be relevant to the user for consumption. Now, our users are very smart people. They want, instant gratification. And for that to happen, UX and artificial intelligence actually come together. You need to know how to use that technology. Okay, artificial intelligence is like any other, hot technology in the market that we see. Previous to this, I mean, we've been trying to do mixed reality, right? We've been trying to do AR, VR, and we've been trying a whole lot of other things, right? It depends on which one really takes off. And for whatever reason, artificial intelligence has actually taken off a whole lot more because in this race for digital transformation, where various corporates are actually trying to move away from legacy and come into futuristic way of looking at things, we have to future proof not only the technology, not only the business, not only the ecosystem. We also need to make sure that the experience is in sync with all of this. So business, technology, and design, all of these three come together. You can't do one without the
Yeah.
other. So you can have a fantastic algorithm running in the background, but if your experience on the front of it is not going to work, that algorithm doesn't make it. So no matter how much AI you put in there, the design has to do the talking, and that's where it comes in. And when you look at brand, that whole experience is what the brand brings in, because at the end of the day, it's not just about acquiring customers. It's not just about retention, you're heading towards loyalty. Loyalty is the bottom line. So, in digital, the more you have loyal customers, the longer they stay with you. So,
Yeah.
broadly, AI is very related to design.
That makes complete sense. And the way you put that business, technology, and like creative or communication, they are all very interlinked. But would love to understand Lulu's on the same. Like, how is these tech innovations in the industry? How is it affecting the creative ecosystem in good, bad, or advancement progression way?
So technology has been that tsunami, right? That's totally upended so many industries. I was doing work for the Taj Group almost 10 years ago when Airbnb started popping up. And initially nobody took them seriously. 5 years later, the valuation of Airbnb was more than Marriott, the number one hotel group in the world, right? And that whole business or brand was built entirely by technology. Of course, we have to unpack that in terms of the platform and all of the other tools that enable the creation of the business, but it was fundamentally a product of technological innovation. So, disruption is the norm in the world that we live in, disruption through technology. So, if I were to unpack your question and say, what's the impact? Let's think about it from a business perspective, a practitioner perspective, because everybody in the seminar today are creative practitioners, and perhaps just from the every man, woman on the street perspective. From a business perspective, Himanshu and Kavita, I think for me, every business needs to think whether they are in the low value added business space or in the value added business space, because I think it's already starting, and over time, as automation and more technology becomes ubiquitous, low value added activities is not where businesses can thrive. So it's really about finding that those high value, high touch spaces where you can drive bigger margins, right? Data led in our own business globally, insights and analytics is where we're seeing a lot of growth and margin. And then people using brand and design to really help organizations transform. That's where there's a lot of high margin as well. So that's on a business level. Now, from a practitioner's level, technology can be something that you're very fearful of, or it's something that can project you or rather catapult you into the future. And that's where your mindset comes in. I was reading that artificial intelligence, if we think about it as augmented intelligence, then we see AI as a partner to us as practitioners, not the enemy. So I think that mindset shift is really important so that we can make most use of tools. And as Kavita rightly said, AI is probably right now the more dominant one in terms of the discussion. And then the last one to point out is just for people who are interested, who may not be practitioners. I truly believe technology has democratized. It's created, whether it's social media stars or people who have incredible leverage who can earn while they sleep, right? So if you think of platforms like Canva or Midjourney and some of the other ones that we're going to talk about later, podcast platforms, video platforms like YouTube, it's given ordinary individuals the power to truly create value and leverage and become stars in the world. So technology is changing, continues to change. We're very nascent in this journey, and all of us have to keep our eyes wide open to think about, as business leaders, certainly the business impact, as colleagues in the industry, how do practitioners truly elevate their game and keep thinking forward? And as every man, we can also think about what are the tools that are out there that gives us the opportunity to build our own personal brands in a very powerful way as well.
Very rightly said, Lulu. And being leaders, we obviously are interacting with people, leaders from all industries, and we have information, awareness about such things. But would love to ask you, how do you ensure that all, like across your organization, throughout your teams, how are they coping up and being relevant with all these innovations, all these advancements? whether it is AI or whether it is pure technological, maybe a new software, new platform, new distribution platform, and all of that.
Sure, I'm happy to jump in, Kavita, and then I'm very passionate about learning. And I think being a learning organization is super critical. Of course, lots of companies, the bigger companies, have the resources for it, but it has to flow from the top. I think leaders themselves have to transform. I was having a chat with somebody 2, 3 years ago, and they were talking about how leaders talk so much about digital transformation and all sorts of other transformation, but nobody's talking about the transformation of the CEO as well as the transformation of the leadership team. So I think from a learning perspective, the young folks will be attending webinars like this, will be upskilling themselves. They are really hungry to be on top of all of these tools. But I think those over 35 or 40 should be as well. At our organization, we're part of WPP, which is a larger communications group, as you know. We have a learning series where we have many interventions in the month where we can go and upskill ourselves and learn. We also get access to LinkedIn Learning, Udemy, and things like that for our staff. And recently, we introduced a session where people who've already been upskilled can then teach their colleagues. So I think it's a mindset of learning because new technologies are just rapidly proliferating. We can't keep an eye on it. The leaders have to lead by example, being learners for life. But I do think that organizations can put in place interventions to ensure that that mindset of learning is embraced by all and supported by the organization.
Got it. Makes complete sense. And Kavita, you being from TCS, where they themselves are helping a lot of brands in digitally transforming themselves. How is it like? How is the experience? Is it easier, or do you think it's still a challenge for you also?
No, well, anything, it's how you want to see whether the cup is half full or half empty. So you can either look at it as a challenge or you can look at it as an opportunity. It's up to you how you want to look at it and deal with it. See, the thing is this, yeah, I mean, Lulu covered the sizable amount of it in terms of learning, in terms of the courses that we have to go through to upskill ourselves. That's one part. Hands on is the other half. So every opportunity that comes through the door is unique in itself, has its own challenges. No two stories are the same. So in the design space, one is that you're a very visual person. Okay, your expression is in the visual form, but end of the day, you are storytelling. You know, the storytelling aspect has to come in, and no matter what, that's a very human thing that has to happen there because you are dealing with the sentiment of the audience, right? So no amount of technology is going to take that away from you. So the storytelling aspect built into the visual representation that comes through with all the other bells and whistles with respect to how consistent you need to be and the interface that you work with and all the rules that come with it, all of this comes together to make an entire story come true in the way you had envisioned it. One is to envision that story, and next is to bring it to, bring it alive. So that journey that you do, you learn on that journey. It's the journey that's more fun. The outcome is it's the icing to the cake, but the journey that you go through while you're learning how to work with technology, how to work with brand, how to work with business, and how does your design talk to all of this? That's really where the meat of it sits. Bottom line,
Yeah.
I think all designers have to evolve into becoming storytellers. And that's when
Yeah.
you stay relevant in the industry.
Makes sense. So I think since Kavita covered that part, would just love to address to the audience that we have a dedicated session on the art of storytelling. We have Imran, Shamsi there. Would love everyone to just take out time and attend that session as well. But yeah, moving on, would like to switch the perspective a little bit towards the brand side because they are the ones who you are working constantly with. And since now, I mean, because of geo in India especially, but because internet and digital content is more freely and more accessible now, and even to the depth of audience, right? How has the brand requirements, or I would say the conversations with the brand, changed, and how does it affect the content creation. Earlier, I remember there was days when one TVC used to get converted into some videos, some banners, and used to go on for one like entire year. But does that scenario change on ground? How does like practitioners, the word you used, how does it change from the brand perspective? Maybe Kavita, you start first.
So you see, the thing is, one part of it is, yeah, content, brand, and experience. Okay, all of these three. So the thing is, let's look at AI itself. Okay, we have a whole load of raw data. Okay, we have lots of raw data, and that's the biggest struggle most companies are going through right now. Okay, in their whole transformation journey, lots of data. How do you make sense out of it? How do you make sense out of that? So when you look at data, it is a type of content that we are looking at. Data versus, the tone of voice that you use on the site or on the app or whatever interface you're looking at. Okay, it could be any digital canvas for that matter. Okay, it could be AR/VR also. Okay, but the thing is, AI is that methodology by which data comes to you in a particular format. Okay, now you can either take that and you can show it up to the user in a form that they want to consume, or you can build a story around it so that they are even more inclined towards staying with you. So the presentation of the data is where the crux of the story is. What is the value you're giving that user? Something very simple like LinkedIn. Somebody saw your profile 3 hours ago. It's such an insignificant piece of information, but it's so important. It's kind of just massages your ego for 2 seconds while you go through that. Okay, somebody just came and saw my profile. Who was that? So but that little thing over there, which otherwise in our world of when we sit and try to be rational about it, might have been very insignificant, but from the sentiment perspective, it has hit the nail on the head beautifully. So it really depends on, data has come to you. Artificial intelligence has its positives and negatives. Okay, from the experience point of view, I would say that there are goods and bads about AI. But the thing is, when the data comes to you, you need to make a story out of it. That story doesn't stick in one place. It has to be consistent throughout the experience, so that wherever you connect with this brand, be it on mobile, be it on web, be it in person, be it in a shop, be it anywhere, the same flavor has to come to you either way. It has to anyway all stitch in together, physical or digital or digital, however you want to look at it. So essentially, it's design is one aspect of visual communication, but when you mingle a little bit of logic and storytelling and you bring that together and you are looking at some harsh realities of your ROI, exactly what is the target I'm trying to reach. Oh, it's a pretty complicated story when you get there. Over to you, Lulu.
Sure. I mean, maybe I can talk about just brands and how they're experimenting with it. The Cannes Lion Creative Festival is where we see a lot of big examples. And it was super heartening, Himanshu and Kavita. I don't know if you saw that one of the Grand Prix winners was Shah Rukh Khan's, My Ad for Cadbury. And that was just such a brilliant use of technology and artificial intelligence. So clearly, even clients, Indian brands, Indian agencies are starting to create cutting edge work at the global level. So that was by Ogilvy, which is our sister company. If you also see technology, everything that Kavita mentioned, AR, VR, etc., was used to create one of the most groundbreaking campaigns at Cannes this year, called the Unfiltered British Museum Tour for Vice. This was created by Densu in Bangalore, but such brilliant work. The insight being that the British Museum has a lot of treasures that were looted from the countries, and through an AR hack, those visiting the museum could actually learn about the real story behind these treasures. So the content, the technology, the creativity that went into curating the online experience, also, sort of matching it with the offline experience. So when you're actually there and you put your camera up through the Instagram, you can interact. absolutely phenomenal. When campaigns like that win on the global stage, the desire for our clients to do more starts to increase. So, increasingly, we're getting briefs like what can we do in the metaverse, or can we use algorithms to make our visual identity campaigns much more differentiated, more exciting, and energizing. So, I feel like the gauntlet's just opening up and the possibilities are immense. But a reminder to creatives and to marketers, it should not be technology chasing technology. Now people saying, what can we do in the metaverse? Does the metaverse even make sense for you as a brand? Does it make sense as a business? Are your consumers or customers in the metaverse? So, really applying the consumer lens, the relevance of the consumer, and whether it makes sense for the brand or not before chasing technology is important. So, just to conclude the answer to your question, the possibilities are immense. Indian brands and agencies are starting to create groundbreaking work, which is recognized at a global level. But let's not rush in if it doesn't make sense for our consumers and for our brands.
That makes complete sense, Lulu. And with that, on that note, I would also like to address the elephant of the room. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people from the audience would be expecting this question coming out, right? So there is a sentiment, and kind of Kavita also mentioned it. AI is not an enemy; it's a practitioner, right? So there's a sentiment of now AI and some competency of creating content automatically within few seconds. Would it replace job of creators or designers or artists? What do you think? Like, Lulu, let's start with you. What's your take on AI generation of content? What place would it occupy in this industry, and is it gonna like take away the jobs of creators or artists?
No, absolutely not. And I brought a book, one of my favorite books in the last couple of years. It's a book called A Whole New Mind by Daniel Pink. And it's all about why right brainers will rule the future. So, just as a primer for people who might have forgotten left brain versus right brain, left brain is all about that sequential thinking, the logic. Most of us in this room are the right brainers who think more holistically, who can make sense of patterns, who have that empathy and intuition. So designers are going to be in the driver's seat. So let's not be fearful. The power is being given to us. The question is, are we going to embrace the power or not? Are we going to skill ourselves to understand what the possibilities are? As we talked earlier, are we really going to partner with technology and machines? Because let's be honest, no machine is going to create something that's physically beautiful and emotionally compelling. That only comes from soul, that humans can create, right? So designers are in the driver's seat. We can create things that machines can't create. And actually, if you make AI your friend, that can give you a huge competitive edge, because the possibilities that AI and other tools will throw up for you are immense, and you become this curator. You can become a super sought after designer. But it's just in the mindset and how you position yourself. You're increasingly going to have the seat at the table to create that competitive advantage for yourself, for your brands, for your companies. So seize the opportunity and carpe diem.
I
Yeah,
couldn't
Lulu,
agree with
thanks. Yeah.
yeah, I couldn't agree with Lulu more. She really hit the nail on the head straight off. You know, it's sentiment is what really matters, and the value that you bring to the table is based around how you can stitch logic and sentiment together. Okay, AI is more the logical side, design is more the sentiment side, and together you have a lovely story to tell. Okay, now with respect to designers, okay, they need to be a little careful. Okay, why I'm saying this is not because AI is coming to take your job away, not that way, but as you keep living in this space of design, as you get more and more comfortable 15, 20 years down the line of constantly doing design, you know, you are going to hit the mundane. Your work is going to become another day's work, business as usual, and nothing super exciting that wakes you up in the morning and says, yes, I'm excited about something that I want to work on. No, it's not going to happen that super easily, right? So for every designer, they need to be very aware of what are they achieving for that day or that time. The time is a relative figure. You have the environment that you are in, which is giving you the opportunity to do something. It is up to you whether you want to take the bull by the horns or whether you want to keep it business as usual. If you keep it business as usual, then that robot is going to get the better of you. You're becoming robotic in your own existence, which means your gray cells are not waking up, right? So if you're going to live in the same state every day, then you are in a mode of stagnation, which means you're in trouble. So yes, AI can take over at that point very easily, because AI, it does not function alone on its own. It does what it's told. It works on a pre-existing reality. The pre-existing reality is something that I would call best practice in the industry. Okay, so when we take best practice in the industry, and just about every airline site starts looking the same, or just every retail shop, online e-commerce portal starts looking the same, except that the brand changes but the path is the same. It takes 10 pages to get to a transaction completion, it takes 7 pages to book a ticket. Everybody knows what to do. AI can take over that very easily, because it's very easy to create something that is already set in principle. But if you have to disrupt that state, if you have to think afresh, if you have to think new, then the sentiment has to go with it. The story has to change. And that's when, AI can't replace the human being. End of the day, we have to think. We are feeding that, right? We are telling it what to do and it goes on. See, AI will also reach a moment of bias, okay? It's going to reach a point of bias where you need to make it learn again, like Amazon Prime. You keep watching, thrillers for a long time, and suddenly one fine morning you want horror. It's not going to show up on your screen because AI is already taught that it's only thrillers that you watch. And then when you're going and looking for a genre of some other kind, it's not going to give it to you. So you're going to have to start all over again. Teach it how to hunt for you, right? So that the right results come and it's more relevant. So it's very important for our designers to stay relevant, to keep abreast with what's happening in the industry around you. Um, yeah, technology is going to come and you can't escape it. If you're in this space, you better, I think we're all very comfortable with the flux. We've all understood nothing is going to stay for too long, and it's only going to get more evolved, and we have to keep evolving with it. Our tools are going to evolve, we are going to evolve. It's the entire ecosystem is evolving, so there's no chance you're not going to evolve. Otherwise, you're going to stagnate. So that itself, I think most of our designers understand. But they also could do that little something more, and that's the part that they need to find out within themselves, for their own selves and their careers. What is that will make them more relevant than the rest of the world? The value that they bring to the table. I think Lulu said that very nicely. I'm just reiterating her point. Back to you, Manshu.
Oh, I think those were really some like words of wisdom and coming you from Lulu and Kavitha. And I think I was just scrolling over the question sections, and every other question that I'm coming across is pretty much around the same. So thanks a lot. I think almost everyone had the question around the thing, but I think one question that I see in the comment box that I would like to ask you both is, being at such a stage, at such a leadership level in your organization, if still you have a place to go and find references of creativity from, or find something new, find something trendy that's going out there, what would that be for you? Let's start with Lulu.
Yeah, sure. I caught literally 10 minutes of the previous session and I loved what he showed, which is lovetheworkmore.com. These two students who hacked Can. Why Cannes Lions Creative Festival? Just because of the breadth, whether it's film or experience design or radio, audio, digital, the breadth of work is incredible. I'm actually on my Instagram, lulu.raghavan. I have this campaign of the 100 days of creativity, though I'm not doing it in 100 days. There's just too much else going on. I've reached 33. It's hashtag 100 days of big ideas. I'm doing this, Himanshu, where I'm picking out Grand Prix gold campaigns, because when you immerse yourself in the work and you try to understand what was this team thinking of, what was the human centric insight that they uncovered, how did they wrap an idea around it, how is the idea executed in the craft on different mediums, I learn a lot. So for me, a lot of these award platforms like DNAD and CAN are very interesting because of the case studies. You know, one of my favorites last year or this past year was Pinatex, which is vegan leather from pineapple leaves that Dole created. I mean, how innovative is that, right? There's just so much learning if we get past, just the awards and the agencies that won it. So that's a huge source of inspiration for me. And then the second is just talking to different people. I love getting connected with people from across the world, attending conferences like this, joining forums, LinkedIn, etc. Because I think the experience of people and what they share with you in half an hour or an hour of a chat can
Yeah.
never replace all the books that you read, the podcasts that you listen to, the newsletters that you subscribe to. So just making time for interesting conversations with people from outside the industry. And then, as I told you, I love the workmore.com, which has just a ton. It's a real rich repository of award-winning work. Is personally inspiring for me.
That's really great. What about you, Kavita?
You know, in the digital space, we work across various domains. Okay, we look at insurance, banking, DTH, uh, distribution, retail, you name it, we got our feet in there. Um, and to some extent, there is a repetition that takes place, in
Yeah.
some form or the other when you are constantly working with different types of brands. But you know that all these brands are technologically going in a particular direction. So the overall industry is evolving, okay? And all the brands are at various stages of evolution in that space. So, for example, we all have a very traditional way of looking at banking. Okay, whether you look at, I'm not just limiting myself to banking in India, I'm talking about global banking as well. So when you look at various types of banks across the major markets, you basically have essentially, they are anywhere from traditional to very disruptive. And in that space, one of the online banking apps that have really come up is an app called Monzo. And Monzo does
Mhm.
have its own competition. It has Revolut, it has N26, and a whole lot of others who are trying to pick up the same thing. But Monzo decided to break off from core banking and decided to go down one level to millennials and try to bring them on board. And that made all the difference. That made everything. That was one big difference that took place. So now everybody else is trying to grow that base, and they're trying to follow the same logic where you can try to kind of, they have a totally different mindset altogether. It's nowhere close to the traditional banking terminology that you get to see. You're going to lose your audience. So they had to really reconsider how to come back. So there are a whole bunch of other global banks who are attempting to do something similar, but Monzo really changed the rules of the game. There's
Yeah.
another example that we have, which is in, when I say insurance, there'll be a tad bit of boredom that might, be there in the mind when we start talking insurance. But there's this one website called Lemonade. They just changed the rules of the game entirely.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at that site, you just stare at it and you're like, is that really insurance? Because it is so beautifully, they use conversational UI, they bring in a lot of
Mhm.
illustrative ways, and there's such degree of attention to detail in the entire experience that you go through. You don't feel insurance is that bad anymore. So the
Yeah.
subject can be painful. Okay. Yes, it comes with its complexity, and yes, you have to embrace that complexity to get to some solution that has to work long term. But at the same time, you also have it in you to change the rules of the game. And if you can do it, it's like, wow, it's like totally wow. So do we have it in us to make that, when Google came in with its Gmail and shot Yahoo and Hotmail and everybody else down, they just they messed up everybody else's life and they
Yeah.
redefined what emailing was about. From those days to now, disruption has come with its various avatars. Airbnb, yeah, it's like one of the biggest stories. We all look at it as it's a single source of truth to see how to not just from the branding space but from the process space, how to evolve. Everything is evolving. It's not just about brands. It's about the process, your ways of working. Everything is evolving because it's all getting so complex. So it's tools, it's process, it's how to be relevant, and the growing technologies. Everything, the whole thing is changing. So yeah, we have to get used
Yep.
to the carpet being pulled off from below our feet more often than we thought. Go ahead.
No, yeah. No, I think that was some really nice references. Lemonade, I'm personal fan of Lemonade as well. The conversational experience that they have built. Yes.
Yeah, so it frankly was a very genuine and very sound conversation. We basically covered everything that a human intervention, AI intervention, and digital creation is being a part of this world. And thank you so much, Imanshu, for being such a nice and humble moderator. Well, Kavita and Lulu, do we have more questions over here to pitch, or is it now the time
Yeah.
to say?
I think
Okay.
let's call it a session. I think let's move on, and if possible, Lulu and Kavita can answer while being on air meet.
Well, okay, fine. So this was all about AI, and of course, you can always connect with us on Instagram. But before that, as I've mentioned, very specifically, we have an express giveaway for everyone. All you have to do is answer the question on your Instagram stories, and of course, go follow Paper Content and tag us on Twitter as well. So you can get a chance of winning 5,000 rupees worth of Amazon voucher. And of course, it was a lovely conversation. Once again, I want to thank Lulu and Kavita for being such humble, so kind, and being so grateful with all the knowledge that you have shared. Bye bye and
Thank
take
you.
care. See you soon for the
Thanks a
another
lot.
discussion.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.